Hi everybody, welcome back to the Pro MMA Betting Podcast. We're going to be talking about UFC Moscow coming up this Saturday. Going to break down, as always, the card from bottom to top, discuss every fight, see what we can find on the betting lines and see how we can help people make some money. First of all, as always, we're just going to recap how we got on over the weekend for UFC 244. So for members, it was actually an event where we had a large number of pre-bets. I mean, normally on the pre-bet side, probably average 2 or 3 bets per event, but actually had 6 for this event, which was a large number for us. Made us quite nervous having that many bets, but paid off. It went really well. We went 5-1 on our bets. The only bet we didn't cash was Brad Tavares as the underdog, which was the second bet of the night. So confidence was a little bit low. The first bet came in, which was the Arce Dawaldu fight to go the distance. After Tavares, we had bets on Shane Burgos, which came in rocky first round, but completely dominated the second round and then got the finish in round 3. We was also on Corey Anderson as a decent sized underdog. Came in comfortably in round 1, believe it or not. If I hadn't seen the fight and someone said to me it finished in the first round, I would have 100% assumed that we had lost that bet. But Corey Anderson actually pulled out the knockout win in round 1, so that took us to 4-1. And the remaining bets were on Stephen Thompson, who the fight went exactly how I thought it would. I knew it would be a nervy fight. I was quite anxious the whole 3 rounds. Worried he was going to get caught, but he pulled it off. Really good display. Tough first round. Kind of could have gone either way, but then round 2 and 3 absolutely dominated. And our final bet was on Jorge Masvidal, which I was pretty confident on, and yeah, I wasn't really worried at any point in that fight. He was in complete control up until it was stopped on the cut. So really good night for members on the pre-bets. If we include our bet that we had on the PFL on Thursday, was just under 5 units profit for members. And then when we bring in the live betting as well, 244 wasn't great for live betting. There was a lot of early finishes. Wasn't a great live betting show, but we made 2 live bets, I think it was. We managed to get on Derek Lewis. Some members managed to get on his money line. Mid round 2 it was like even money, which just seemed crazy to me. But we actually took Lewis by decision at the end of round 1, which was plus 225 or 3.25, which came in for us. I don't think that fight was a split decision at all. I thought he won all 3 rounds. I mean, the third round was close, but I thought what he'd done at the end was enough for him to win the third round as well. I was really surprised it was a split. And the other live bet we had was Darren Till. We got him as a slight underdog after round 1. So we also had the boxing before UFC 244. So across the weekend, members managed to make just under 4 units profit on live betting. So overall, it was over 8 units profit for members across the weekend. So really good weekend for members. That means members that have been with us since the start of the year, since the start of 2019, and they use £100 per unit, would currently be £12,700 in profit. So it's a great return on your money, guys. At the moment, the yearly membership for 12 months for pre-bets and live betting is only £195. So you take off the membership fee, you'd be £12,500 in profit for the year. That's a second income. And it's, live betting is easy money. The pre-betting is tougher. You have to do a lot more research and so forth for the pre-bets, but whatever way you look at it, we're making money on pre-bets and the live betting. You combine the 2 services and you're going to make a lot of money. We pride ourselves on being the most transparent tipsters out there. All of our bets are tracked. You can find the free links to the trackers below this video. They're also available on the website prommmabetting.com. Everything is tracked, the live bets, the pre-bets. Sometimes we have a boxing and MMA parlay, so that's tracked as well. Everything is tracked, everything is transparent, so you can see exactly the kind of money you can be making with our service. There's 0 paper trading going on as well. We bet exactly what we tip. and we always post our bet slips and stakes on Twitter to prove this. So we are betting exactly what we're tipping. There's a lot of tipsters out there, you never see any evidence of what they're betting, and those that do show the evidence, most of them don't show the stakes. So it's like, what are they betting, £10 or $10 units, and they're recommending you to make these bets, and they can't even build a sizable bankroll themselves. Very unscrupulous, a lot of people, unfortunately, which in turn gives this industry a bad name. Touts, I don't like the word tout, but you know, that's what we're kind of known as. A lot of us, or the industry as a whole, this has a bad rep. I'm trying to fix that in the MMA and boxing industry, at least, with the transparency, with the proof of the bets, with everything we offer. I've said it on here before, you won't ever see anyone calling me out for a lack of transparency, for lying, for making stuff up. That's what I live off, reputation, word of mouth. I'm not going to do anything to jeopardise that. So we are extremely transparent, and I like to be extremely trusted by my members. And like I said, you're never going to see anyone calling us out on anything. And prices are extremely competitive, as I've already mentioned, £195 for 12 months, guys. I know I've got a competitor that charges £200 per month. I offer boxing tips and boxing live betting as well. I know this particular competitor doesn't offer that. £195 for 12 months, insane return on your money can be made here. Also, for Americans, I think you have access to Bet Online. They've actually just started offering live betting on the UFC. They kind of offered it the show before last. I think it was only open for the last 2 fights. I only checked the first 2 fights of the main card, but they had it for UFC 244. I didn't actually check, but a couple of people that I inquired with said that they did have it for the main card. This is huge. BetOnline have big limits. I think they let you get down on whatever odds are offered, $500 a time, and they don't limit you either. So it's a great opportunity if you're American and you have access to Bet Online. I did ask an American, he hasn't got back to me yet to confirm, because I wanted to give you a 100% yes, but if you are American and you can use Bet Online, this is big. I mean, it's big for anyone anyway. Anyone that can use Bet Online, you can deposit via Bitcoin. If you're in the UK, that's what I've done. It's huge to be able to use their service for live betting, because they don't limit you. So although live betting is new, I don't know, maybe they will limit you on live betting, I don't know. There's only one way to find out. Let's make some money off them live betting, but it's a huge opportunity for everyone, especially for the American audience, if they do have access to Bet Online. So make sure you jump on that, guys. What I want to remind everyone as well, when I ask you to invest with me, you need to treat it as a long-term investment. That £195 you spend, you've got to treat it as a 12-month investment, guys. We will have variance, there will be good spells, there will be bad spells. We can't win every week. If we won every week, you know, I wouldn't need to be doing these podcasts. I'd be a rich man who would just sit back, putting the bets on every week and doing nothing else. Doesn't happen. It's impossible to win every week, but it is a long-term investment. We will win long-term. Please keep that in the back of your mind. 90% of our members are with us for at least 12 months. So that shows you how everyone's mindset is that comes in and registers with us. Of course, if you want to have a trial period, you can look at the website. You can sign up for a week. I don't really recommend a week because you're not really going to get a proper flavour, but you can do a month. If you want to do like a flavour month, see how things go for the month. But if you're happy with the service after that, the value is there on signing up for the year, guys. £195, but you've got to treat it with that long-term view, like all the members have. I drill it into them, they all understand, and they're all with me. Even when we have a bad event, I don't get anyone vexing, anyone moaning at me. Just got to dust yourself down and carry on. We will win long-term, as we're proving. Check out our third-party tracked results. You will see we are winning. £100 per unit members, £12,700 in profit. I'll say it again, there's no one more transparent. All bets are tracked, no paper trading. Bet slips, stake amounts, they're all posted on Twitter. There's nothing more I can do, I don't think, to show you how transparent we are and how to believe in the service. We went 11-1 on YouTube for our predictions. Actually went 11-1 a few weeks back as well, so I'm still waiting for the first time I have a clean sweep of picking everyone right. I've been very close twice now. So Brad Tavares let me down this week, unfortunately, which is a bummer. But I'm sure we'll get that clean sweep at some point. So yeah, really happy with that result. Please hit the like button, guys. Trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. Any questions, you can hit me on Twitter at Pro MMA Betting. Website is prommmabetting.com, where you can sign up for the memberships. Membership packages are all there. They've been updated with the current pricing, so you can subscribe through the website. As I said, hit the subscribe button on here, trying to get to 1,000 followers. Hopefully we're going to have another good week. There's bets with members already for UFC Moscow. 2 pre-bets are with members, and as always there will be live betting for the card, so hopefully we can break through to the £13,000 profit mark for £100 per unit bettors. But any questions, guys, as I say, just email as well, info@prommmabetting.com. More than happy to answer any questions, or any questions on via the comments part on YouTube. Just hit us up that way as well. But as I say, long-term investment, you've got to treat it as such. It's like investing in the stock market, except I think my returns outweigh anything you can get out there anywhere. This is a reliable, trustworthy service that you're going to make money with in the long term. But have that in your head, guys. Long term, there's like 40 UFCs a year. There's like 20 odd Bellators. There's PFL events. There's probably 20 to 30 boxing events that we offer live betting on, and we have some pre-bets on the boxing as well. So you've just got to stick with us through the thick and the thin. You're going to make money long term. But that's enough about the service. Let's start talking about the UFC Moscow card. As I said, we're going to break it down from bottom to top as always, and here we go. Right, I'm not completely sure of the fight order, guys, because there's been the Ed Herman fight's been changed opponent wise, and I think Roosevelt Roberts is in on short notice as well against Yakovlev. So I always go off Wikipedia. I'm just on Wikipedia at the moment, and they've got them 2 fights at the bottom, so I'm just going to start with them. So light heavyweight bout, we've got Ed Herman taking on Khadis Ibragimov. So Ed Herman, he's just turned 39. He's been around a long time, Ed Herman. His first pro fight was back in 2002. I thought he was going to be a late 90s one, but yeah, still a long career. 17 years he's been fighting now. Well, his first pro fight actually was 2003. That was amateur. Yeah, he's not been too active over the last few years. He fought once in 2017, once in 2018, and this is actually his second fight of 2019. He's been up at light heavyweight now for, I can't remember if the CB, well, actually it was at light heavyweight CB. I remember it. Remember he got out wrestled. The Khabilov fight. I think he's had his last 4 fights at light heavyweight. He's kind of, you know what you're going to get with him. I mean, he's not very fast. He's not very athletic. He's turned into a earlier in his career he was more of a grappler, but he's turned into a kind of fully fledged striker now. His hands aren't bad, to be fair. He also seems to have a little bit of power up at light heavyweight, and he's coming off a good win over Pat Cummins in round 1. Cummins, although he is hittable, I know he's been stopped a few times. He's normally pretty difficult to stop. He normally has to be a bit of a prolonged beatdown, but Ed managed to get him out there really quickly. The fight before that, he lost a split to one Valente. I remember live betting Ed in that. I thought Ed nicked it. I mean, it was very close, but that could easily have been a win for him as well. And before that, he got out wrestled by CB Dollaway, and then Khabilov's a very good striker. I remember he caught him with a head kick. It was a bad knockout. So he's competent enough on the feet against a certain level of opposition, such as your Valentes and your Cumminses. This is going to be a stand-up fight. I haven't done tape on Ibragimov because I remember him from his last fight. I did tape on him before he fought Young on the Andrade Zhang undercard. Now, the problem with Ibragimov is he gasses out. You could see it on the tape pre-UFC, and it is exactly what happened in his UFC debut. It played out perfectly to script. I managed to get Young on, or Jung, however you say his name, on. I hit him a few times on live bet. It was tipped to members as well. We got like 5-1, I think 4-1, even 3-1. It was just crazy because you could see the books hadn't done their research. You didn't know what type of fighter he was. He came out really hot in round 1. You knew from the tape he was going to slow down, and it's exactly what happened. And he ended up getting subbed in round 3. You've got to think he's learnt from that experience, and he's going to come out a bit slower here. Ed Herman, I mean, Ed can slow down as well, but Ed's, he's a veteran. He's been around, but Ibragimov is going to put the heat on him. You've got to think in round one. He's a decent grappler, Ibragimov, but he's not really got much of a takedown game. It's mainly kind of judo throws from the clinch that kind of work for him, and he hasn't shown much top control either. So not sure if this fight's going to see the mat. I think it's probably going to play out mostly on the feet, but it'd be interesting to see what Ibragimov's strategy is. I've got to think surely if he's got an ounce of brain in him, he's going to come out slower here. It's a very hard fight to call because Ibragimov's extremely hard to trust with that cardio, and I need to see improved fight IQ before I could even think about betting him, especially as a favourite. I think he's sitting at he's minus 195. Yeah, there's no way I'm touching that. Ed Herman plus 160. I'm not very interested in that either, to be honest. Ed's 39 years of age. He's going to be retiring soon. He's got to go over to Russia here. Ibragimov is only 24 years of age. There's a 15-year age gap. It's this huge age gap, and I don't know the exact stat, but you will find that when there's an age gap of 10 years plus, especially when the guy is kind of near 40, that you're going to find the younger guy wins a lot more often than the older guy. It's a pass fight for me. I'm going to pick Ibragimov. I mean, I don't fault anyone for having a stab at Ed, because Ibragimov has shown that he is flawed, and he's in on short notice here as well. Another thing to note with regards to his cardio. But I just don't know how he's going to approach this fight. You've got to think he's going to fight differently, but I wouldn't be surprised if he comes out and tries to take Ed out. And it wouldn't surprise me if he does. He might be able to get the stoppage here. Ed's been stopped a few times. I mean, only 3 times he's been knocked out, to be fair, and he's had 40 fights, so it's not that bad. But yeah, I've just got to go with the younger guy here, but I definitely won't be betting him, and the fight inside the distance line's too steep for me to look at as well. Next up, men's lightweight division, we've got Alexander Yakovlev taking on Roosevelt Roberts. Another tough fight to bet from a betting, obviously from a betting perspective. Tough to trust either guy here. They've both got 74-inch reaches. Both tall guys for the division. Yakovlev 6'3", Roberts 6'1". Yakovlev pretty low volume, under 2 significant strikes per minute. Roberts is up at just over 3. Both absorb a similar amount, about 2.5 each. Yakovlev averages just over 1 takedown per 15 minutes. Roberts is up at 2.5. And takedown defence for Yakovlev 72%. Roberts is 55%. I just find this a really hard fight to call. Yakovlev, I mean, he came back from that long layoff. Took on the Brazilian chap, Alex da Silva, had a rough first round. He came back and got the submission in round 2. He's obviously fighting in his home country here, so he's definitely going to be motivated. Roosevelt Roberts has come in on a pretty short notice here. He's coming off a loss to Vince Pichel, where he lost that mainly from getting out wrestled, so that's not a great look. He also got taken down by Thomas Gifford in the fight before, so he's definitely the better boxer here, Roberts. If you said to me this fight is definitely going to play out on the feet for 3 rounds, I would definitely go with Roberts. But man, that takedown defence as a whole, and Yakovlev, although he's not someone that kind of comes out churning out takedown after takedown, he does have the ability to, and can probably grind Roberts out from top with enough, if he can get enough takedowns and Roberts struggles to get back to his feet. It's just a really hard fight to call because I don't know where Yakovlev's at. I mean, the problem as well with Yakovlev is last time we saw him really go, I mean, you just haven't really seen him apply a takedown heavy game. He kind of out-wrestled Gray Maynard, but that's years ago, and that was Gray Maynard was even shot back in 2015. He had some tough fights like Usman and Zach Cummins up at welterweight, Damian Maia as well. But he is tough. He's very tough to put away, Yakovlev. He's been submitted a few times in his career, but he's only ever been knocked out once, and that was, just having a look when it was, back in like his second fight in 2004. As I said, been subbed a few times, but his sub defence has definitely shored up since then. He went the distance with Damian Maia. I mean, it's been a long time since he was even subbed, so I definitely don't see Roberts getting the finish here. It's just whether Roberts can keep this on the feet and outstrike him, because he does have good boxing, Roberts, but he's clearly got a deficiency with his takedown defence. So I can't get behind Roberts at the moment. He's -165 favourite. It's too steep for me. I just when someone's got such a hole in their game, and Yakovlev, he can wrestle. It's just a no-no from me. Fight to go to decision is -230, which it's a bit steep. I definitely like this fight to go to a decision, but I don't really want to be paying more than -200 on, especially in the male fights, on fight goes to a decision. But if you said to me on current odds I have to make a bet on this fight, that would probably be the bet I would take if we're ignoring the odds per se, because obviously it is -230. Yakovlev, I have to pick Roberts here, but I'm not betting that line. I just don't trust his takedown defence, but I just don't trust Yakovlev to have enough volume on the feet if it is standing, and I don't trust him to pursue takedowns either. He came back from that long layoff, and at least he's fighting again, because I queried why he was coming back last time, but he didn't look that great against Alex De Silva. He's 35 years of age, Yakovlev. He's got he's got a fight in Russia here. The last time, where was the fight that he fought De Silva? Was that in Russia as well? Yeah, that was Russia as well. So he's been lucky. He's had kind of 2 close fights date-wise in Russia. Is he just fighting to fight on these Russian cards? Is there motivation for him to do much else? I don't know. It's an intangible I don't really want to bring into capping this fight, because it's one I'm just speculating. But again, Roberts is the much younger guy, much like the fight we just spoke about. He's 10 years younger. He does have handy boxing. He's got some solid boxing. So I'm going to go with Roberts here. But again, it's definitely not a line I'd be betting. But I do definitely like it going to a decision. I'd be very surprised if there's a finish in this fight. Yakovlev's a tough guy, and Roberts isn't. He's not a huge puncher either. And also Yakovlev's not. He's not much of a finisher. Not in the UFC anyway. He hasn't shown to be. He did one punch George Sullivan, but it's kind of, and he did get a finish in his last fight as well, to be fair. It's kind of a bit of a unique choke from that angle, that guillotine that he managed to submit Alex De Silva with. But yeah, I'd be surprised if he put away Roberts, but yeah, -230 is just too steep for it to go to a decision. So I'm going to pick the younger man here, but again, it's a fight where I think it's a dangerous one to bet money on, and I think you're better off putting your money elsewhere on this card, or if you are going to bet it, you're one of these that likes to bet every fight, at least keep it relatively small. Next, we've got another fight that is definitely not one that I want to be betting. Grigory Popov taking on Davey Grant. I faded Popov in his UFC debut against Eddie Wineland. Wineland came through in that fight. Popov's, he's really old. He's, for a guy fighting in the bantamweight division, he's 35 years of age. He does train at Tiger Muay Thai. He's got some kind of Thai boxing background. I think he's pretty decorated over there in Asia or Russia, wherever he's been fighting. I haven't delved into this fight here. I did do a lot of research on him when he fought Wineland, but I haven't bothered looking into it here because I wasn't overly sold on him as some kind of emerging prospect. And Davey Grant, I don't think Davey's a bad fighter. He's from the UK, but he's just been so inactive. The Manny Bermudez fight was over so quick, you might as well disregard that. So you're saying, he's not fought for 3 years in essence. And then he fought Marlon Vera like 6 months before that fight, but then you're going back to another, 2.5 year layoff. It's just, the guy just hasn't fought since he lost in the Ultimate Fighter final to Chris Holdsworth. He's had 3 fights in 6 years. He's had injuries and so forth, so it's just, I just don't know where he's at. And the Manny Bermudez fight was over so quick, I don't want to just fade him based off of getting finished there. He got dropped and choked, it happens. Doesn't mean he's shot or that he's particularly awful. It's just, some people just, you suffer these quick losses in MMA. but they didn't see enough of his game to get any idea where he's at. So it is a complete pass fight for me. I know Popov's a decent sized favourite. He's actually dropped down from where I last saw him. He's minus 190 now. But for me, I'm not betting Popov at minus 190 because I was not impressed when I did do some tape on him. I remember he'd fought absolutely nobody. And he might out-savage Davy Grant here with his stand-up. But, you know, Davy Grant, I mean, Marlon Vera's improved a lot and he's filled out physically. But I remember Davy Grant tossing Marlon Vera all over the place. Just dominated him. So, but who knows where Davy's at? It's a complete pass, guys. If you're betting on it, you're a Deegan. Yeah, I'm just moving on from that fight. Prediction-wise, I'm just abstaining from that fight. I'm not even making a prediction. I have no idea what's going to happen there. Next, women's bantamweight division. We've got Pani Kianzad. She's from Sweden, so not too far from Russia. Only 27 years of age, Pani. Actually, younger than I thought. She's coming back here from she had a fight back in July against Julia Avila. Took a beating in that fight, to be honest with you, for 3 rounds. She done well to get to the final bell. She also had some trouble with Macy Kaysen when they fought. She got dropped in that fight and got finished. So, you know, she's had 2 tough fights though against 2 women that actually can hit. It's very rare to come across women that can actually hit hard in the women's divisions, and she's been quite unfortunate that she's found 2 of the harder hitters. So she's actually taken some damage across them 2 fights. She's got a win over in I think it's a Swedish show called Superior Challenge, sandwiched in between. So she's coming back here taking on Jessica Rose Clark from Australia. So not going to be a nice fight for Rose Clark. Rose Clark hasn't fought for over a year. Her last fight was against Jessica Rai. I haven't even done the research into this fight, guys, to be completely honest with you. It's just not a fight I've really got much interest in betting. As I've said before, it's a betting podcast. Some fights I just know that I'm definitely not going to bet them, even if I do tape on them, and I won't bother, especially for a fight like this where I'd really need to dig into tape to get a good inclination on either of them, because I remember Pani fairly well, but Jessica I definitely need to dig into. I don't have a great recollection of her. I know she's a striker. The line's even money line there as well, which just makes the decision even easier. If one of them was a particularly big dog, then it might be interesting fight to look into. I know Pani was a decent sized dog at one point. I think I saw her up maybe plus 150, plus 160. But as it stands now, Pick'em, I'm just completely passing. Fight goes to a decision, typically women's fight minus 350. I mean, Pani does have some decent boxing, but it's kind of where Rose Clark's forte is as well. So, Pani's actually the favourite now. Wow, Pani's gone favourite. So, yeah, it's a difficult fight to call. Wouldn't be surprised to see Rose Clark maybe go back as the favourite. Or maybe it will hold. I mean, a lot of money's come in on Pani on this one. So for me, it's another one I want to pass on because I've done 0 research, but I'm going to give a pick because I passed on the Davy Grant fight. I'm going to go with, there's not even any value to pick an underdog because it's like basically a pick-em line. So I'm going to go with Pani. As I said, I don't remember Jessica too well, but Pani has got decent hands for a lady, decent boxing. But again, I know that's kind of where Jessica kind of excels, or if you can say excels in any area, that is her preference. But I'll go with Pani to win a close split decision-y type fight. There's a serious theme of fights that I don't want to be betting on this week, and that continues here. We've got Abu Bakr Nurmagomedov, I think it's Khabib's cousin, taking on David Zawada. I definitely can't bet David Zawada because of the fight he had with, I'm trying to remember who it was, Danny Roberts. Fight IQ on display. It's one of the worst fights I've ever seen in terms of poor fight IQ. He should have won that fight. He just threw it away, just doing absolutely dumb stuff, going for sacrifice throws. His corner told him to stop doing them after round 1. He was still going for them. I think he actually hit the first one he attempted in round 2. but it's just like, why are you going for sacrifice throws in the UFC? You end up on your back if you flop. They're a really low percentage takedown. He'd have Danny Roberts hurt on the feet, and then he'd start looking for a takedown. It was just bizarre, awful fight IQ. I cannot put any money on a guy like that under any circumstances until I've seen some improved fight IQ, and this will be the test of his fight IQ, because surely he's not going to be trying to take this guy down. Surely he's not going to be shooting on him if he has him hurt on the feet. But until I've seen it in the UFC, I can't touch him. He lost a split decision to Danny Roberts in a fight he should have won, but he just... when I say he should have won, I mean he should have won if he just utilised any semblance of fight IQ. The fight itself, I probably think he maybe should have still got the nod, but he made it extremely close. It was his own fault. And then he's coming off a loss to Zhilang Li, which, Lee's a tough guy. Good striking, hits hard. He's a tough guy to look good against. Zawada, he likes the pressure on the feet. He's not the greatest striker in the world, but his pressure presents a problem. In MMA, pressure fighters are a bit of a nightmare, especially if they're durable. And he's got that kind of style. He's taking on Nurmagomedov here, who has been fighting on the PFL circuit. I'm not overly sold on this guy, to be honest. I've had a little look at some of his fights. I mean, the PFL fight, I remember Pavel Kush was a plus 900 underdog. It ended up closing. He got subbed in the second round. He's since won a decision over Jonathan Westin, and he's coming off a draw with Bojan Velovic. Obviously, it's the weird format over in PFL with the 2 rounds and so forth. So I'm definitely not interested in backing him here as a -2. He's gone up -270 favourite now. That perhaps he can get his grind on and he grinds Zawada out, but I'm not paying that just because his surname's Nurmagomedov. His best win in MMA is over probably someone I've never seen fight before. Probably this Westing guy from Sweden. So I think that price is completely unjustified. I haven't done the required research to make this a confident pick, but just based on the odds, I'm going to pick Zawada here. If you're interested in betting Zawada, do the tape yourself though, because as I said, I haven't dug deep into this. I just knew I wasn't betting Zawada because I can't trust his fight IQ, and I knew I wasn't going to be betting Nurmagomedov because I don't think he's worthy of this price that he's been given. So do your own research on that one, guys. But yeah, I'm picking the dog there, Zawada. That line seems too wide. I imagine the line's going to come in as fight week progresses, but for me it's a pass fight again. So, but I'm going to go with the dog there, plus 230 dog. Next we move to the men's middleweight division. I think we've got Roman Kopylov taking on Karl Robertson. Guys, this card is actually, as I'm breaking these fights down one by one, this is not a good betting card. There's serious either trust issues or just unknowns here. Kopylov, this is a big step up in competition for him. He's only had 8 fights. He's 8-0. He's a southpaw. He's got good striking, but this is a big step up for him here against Karl Robertson, who is a very good striker. We've seen him in the UFC. He absolutely tore Jack Marshman a new one on the feet for 3 rounds. We saw him, I can't remember who he beat in Muay Thai. It was one of the old legends. I can't remember what one it was. I mean, he was like a shot version. Or actually, I think he lost the fight, Karl, but he should have got the decision. I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but whether the guy was kind of not what he once was, he still gave him a tough fight. So, Karl's a solid striker. So I think he's going to test Kopylov here. Money, rightly so, has come in on Robertson as well. I mean, Kopylov was, I can't remember what I saw him out at. Was he over a -200 favourite at one point? I'm not sure if the line ever got that wide, but it's closed in there to pretty much a pick'em. Let me see what they say, the movement. Yeah, it's got him here. He was at -190, so a lot of money's come in. It's just a hard fight to call because it's a big step up for Kopylov. We just don't know how good he is. And I think all value is gone now that it's an even money line. I mean, Karl exhibited poor fight IQ in his last fight, which will prevent me from trusting him here. Maybe if he was still at the plus 150, plus 160, it'd be worth a shot. But the Wellington Turman fight, he was initiating grappling exchanges. It was just what are you doing? And I'm big on fight IQ. It's so big in MMA. You see it so often. Fighters exhibiting poor fight IQ, and I need to see Karl come out and fight sensibly here. He can grapple. We saw him grapple Darren Stewart and utilise it well there. But why is he trying to grapple with Wellington Turman? He had the advantage on the feet, and he's come out trying to grapple, and he's lucky he got that split decision. So it's a pass fight for me, and I'm not making a prediction either, because I just don't know where Kopylov stands. I can't really get a read on how good he is or not from the opponents he's faced. So for me, I think it's a complete pass fight, especially at the current odds, which probably are about right. He's got some hype. Kopylov, he's fighting at home. Karl's got to come over to Russia, but Karl's coming off a poor performance fight IQ wise. So let's see if he's shored things up here, because he is a good striker. So, but I'm excited to see this fight, to see how good or how good he isn't with regards to Kopylov. But yeah, no prediction from me. One thing actually that I don't mind value-wise on this fight is fight goes to a decision is currently plus 135. There's a little bit of value there. I think Kopylov's getting a little bit overrated for his finishing ability, because he's got 7 knockout wins from 8. He's fought no one. I mean, Karl's easily the best striker he's going to have faced. So I'm not sure why that's so wide. I mean, Karl was a very good striker, but he's only got a couple of knockout wins himself in his career. Jack Marshman did eat some heavy artillery, but managed to survive. So I don't think Karl's the biggest puncher in the world either. And as long as Roman's got a competent grappling game, I don't see Karl subbing him. So I think there's possibly some value on that fight going to a decision. I think that line's going to change. Plus 135, it was plus 145. It's not open anywhere else yet, but I think as fight week goes on, that drops to at least a pick 'em. If not, fight goes to a decision, becoming maybe slightly favoured. And the theme of not being able to trust fighters or just not having a clue where they're at continues, as we've got Rustam Khabilov moving up to welterweight, taking on Sergey Khandozhko. Probably saying that completely wrong. I know I get comments every week about name pronunciation. I did warn you guys at the start, I'm not good with names. So this is just another fight that's just hard to call. I mean, on paper, Khabilov should win this fight. He's got the solid wrestling background. I remember researching Sergey before his UFC debut, and the takedown defense was a weakness for him. It was kind of where he let himself down, and we saw that in parts in his UFC debut against the hairiest guy ever. What's his name? Let's find him. Rustam Akman. He's kind of never really got held down, but he got taken down against the fence a lot in that fight. I think he managed to keep getting back to his feet, but the best look in the world, being taken down repeatedly by Akman. He's very experienced, Sergey. He's had over 30 fights. He's only 27 years of age. I think he took that fight with Akman on fairly short notice, and it was a little bit of a controversial decision as well. I mean, he got unanimous decision there. He managed to hurt Akman. I think it was twice. I think he dropped him and in the second round, and he kind of clearly wobbled him a little bit in the third, which probably swayed the judges. But without those big moments, he probably would have lost that decision. But Khabilov, he's wrestling just not. I mean, he's moving up to welterweight here. It's his first fight at welterweight. I don't know if that's a good move or not. He'd never struck me as being a massive lightweight, but he's 33 years of age. Maybe he's felt the cut's just taking too much out of him. But he's kind of been. I know he's had some injuries. I don't know if that's affected his wrestling, but he's just not. He's just not been winning fights emphatically. They've all been, I mean, he's got a lot of unanimous decision wins, but I mean, I remember the Desmond Green fight. You could argue Green won that fight. The Cajun Johnson fight, he was probably lucky to get that decision. He was losing round 3. It was definitely 1-0. He was losing round 3, and I think he got a takedown with about a minute left in a round he was losing, and the judges gave it to him. I mean, it was in Russia. Maybe that was why. but his wrestling's just looked a lot more ineffective lately. Diego Ferreira just shut him down. I mean, he managed to hit a few takedowns on Diego, but Diego would just scramble straight back up, and it was just that struck him. So he's been looking like someone that's definitely on some kind of decline, and it's just hard to know how he's going to look at welterweight. Maybe it's going to help him not having to cut weight. He's got an opponent here who historically has struggled with his takedown defence, so maybe that's going to help him as well. I mean, he had fought, like Norman Park, Chris Wade, Desmond Green, Diego Ferreira. They're not the easiest people in the world to take down and keep down. But he's definitely not kind of a prospect anymore like he was when he first came into the UFC, and he definitely doesn't look like the same guy that kind of made his debut against Yancy Medeiros and just tossed him all over the place, like literally suplex city. No, that wasn't Yancy Medeiros, that was his debut, wasn't it, against Vince Pichel. Just absolute domination. Go and watch that fight if you've not seen it. Just suplex city. Definitely looks like he's lost something. He's got a winnable fight here, so I'm going to go with him to win this one, but there's no way I'm betting him at minus 200. Oh, he's come right down. He's minus 165 now. Well, that's interesting. Some money is coming in on Sergey. But I think he's probably going to be able to just grind enough to nick a decision here. But do you know what? He's been boring as hell. Like, I mean, the UFC. I mean, is he a sell in Russia? Is he really? Is there much interest for the UFC to keep him? I just don't see him being in the UFC much longer, especially if he loses here. I think he'll get cut, but I'll go with him to win a decision. But guys, don't bet it. Let's see how he looks at welterweight. There's no interest from me whatsoever. And Sergey on the feet, probably the better striker. So he's going to have to get his grind going. But we'll see. But for me, I need to see how he looks here up at welterweight. Does he look improved? Can he get his wrestling going again? I mean, he does know how to win decisions. We'll give him that. He's won a lot of decisions in the UFC. He clearly lost to Ferreira. There was no argument there. He was outclassed. And even the only decision he's lost in the UFC besides Ferreira was to Adriano Martins, and even then that was a split decision. So I imagine it's going to be a close fight, but I just think Khabilov's probably going to edge it. But I need to see how he looks at welterweight before I can think of putting money on him and see how he looks in general, because he's looking like someone on a decline. And next up, the last fight on the preliminary card before we get to the main card, we've got Magomed Ankalaev taking on Dalcha Lungiambula. Ankalaev, I will never ever forget this guy for as long as I live, because I bet him against Paul Craig. Now, I didn't pay like minus 700 how he closed. He was sitting at minus 300 for a while when the line first opened. So I took that, and submitted 4:59 of round 3. Unbelievable. But kind of having gone back and watched these UFC fights again, I mean, the Paul Craig fight he was winning the fight. He was going to win a 30-27. It was it was going to be a clear win, but the performance wasn't that impressive. Watching it in retrospect, it looked like he tired a little bit. I mean, he didn't dominate Paul Craig on the feet like I thought he was going to. He even got taken down a couple of times, so he managed to reverse or get back to his feet, or actually kind of take Craig down as he was working back to his knees. But the best look in the world getting taken down by him. But then he had a good performance against Marcin Prashino, took him out in the first round really quickly, really nice combination knockout. And he's coming off a fairly comfortable decision win against Klidson Abreu, he's on this card as well. He's a really tricky guy. Not got the best stand-up in the world, but he's really tricky on the mat. He'll shoot for a takedown. You give your back, trying to get back up, he'll be all over your back, and he's got some good wins, Abreu. So that was a decent win for Ankalaev. He broke Abreu's nose in the first round with an uppercut that I think it had quite a big effect on Abreu. So it seemed to be bothering him for the rest of the fight. So perhaps if that didn't happen, it might have been more interesting, because I do remember Abreu catching him at one point with a hook, and it seemed to stun Ankalaev. One thing to note with Ankalaev as well, though, is he's very, very comfortable fighting out of either stance, either orthodox or southpaw, and he seems to go the opposite stance to his opponent. So I'm expecting him to come out southpaw here. That's what my expectation is. So he's obviously he is a sophisticated striker, being able to just fight in either stance extremely comfortably. But volume isn't crazy. we saw that in the Abreu fight, but maybe he was just a little bit worried about getting taken down, which, rightly so. And he did stuff a couple of Abreu takedown attempts that were fairly deep on the hip, so that was encouraging after the Paul Craig fight. Dalcha, very explosive guy, very muscle bound. Fights kind of exactly how you expect with someone that looks like that. He fights in bursts of explosiveness, which isn't the best strategy. He's from South Africa. We know that's not exactly a hotbed for MMA, but he certainly looks the part. He's got boulders for shoulders. The traps are humongous on the guy. He fought a lot at heavyweight before he came to the UFC. I saw his fight with Stuart Austin, who's a British fighter, British heavyweight. Not a good look in that fight. He got taken down pretty easily in round one. He got mounted. He was extremely fortunate. I think the ref didn't step in and stop that fight. He was definitely a referee trying to give the poster boy as much a chance as he could, and he was rewarded because he come out round two, caught a knee from Austin, took him down and pounded Austin out, but he didn't look good off his back against Austin, like instant mount and big ground and pound. Then he fought Andrew Van Zyl, again at heavyweight, on a split decision in that fight. Not sure if it should have been a split, but he definitely slowed down the stretch. He was doing what he normally does, fighting in spurts of explosiveness, and he's got a judo background. In the clinch, he'll go for a lot of judo throws, hip tosses, things like that. And then he took on Townsend in his UFC debut. Townsend was a late notice replacement, a journeyman of MMA really, Townsend. But Dalcha looked alright in that fight, to be fair to him. He completely dominated the fight and got the finish in the third round. So this is an interesting one in the sense that Ankalaev, quite a patient striker, very technical, going to be coming up against the explosiveness of Dalcha, who's going to try and catch him in spurts here. So Ankalaev's got to be very careful he doesn't get caught with one of these bursts of Dalcha's, but it does use a lot of energy when you make these bursts, so he is susceptible to slowing down because of that style. I don't really see him having much success getting Ankalaev down. As I said, most of his he will shoot doubles from the outside, but they're a little bit telegraphed. And as I said, a lot of his takedowns come from like hip throws and so forth, and he's going to have to be very careful going for them against Ankalaev because he doesn't want to end up on the bottom against Ankalaev. As I said, he didn't look good against Austin when he was stuck on the bottom, and I've seen Ankalaev smash people with ground and pound. I didn't go back and watch those fights for purposes of this tape, but when I've taped Ankalaev before, I think it was the Wagner Prada fight, he KO'd him with ground and pound, and I'm sure there was another one I watched where he took someone out with ground and pound. And I mean, it was 2 years ago, but Dalcha is 34. He's not exactly a young gun coming into this game. Ankalaev 27 should still be improving. So Dalcha needs to be very careful he doesn't end up on the bottom. I don't really think Ankalaev's going to go for takedowns, but Dalcha just needs to be careful if he's going for those hip throws and stuff, that if he fouls on one, he doesn't end up on the bottom. Same with a fouled shot out in the open. If he gets sprawled on, you can easily end up on the bottom. So he's got to be really careful there. And on the feet, I mean, Ankalaev is the much more technical striker. It's just, Dalcha probably needs to land a bomb here to win this fight. And I just don't know how good he is at landing those bombs. He's got 10 wins, half of them are by KO. We did see him catch Townsend with that explosiveness. But when you go back and look at his fights, like the fight before with Andrew Van Zyl went 5 rounds. Stuart Austin was ground and pound on the floor. He took out some other guy quickly in 26 seconds, so I assumed it was a standing KO. But fight before that went 5 rounds. He won another fight before that in the 4th round. Fight before that he lost, and he went the distance with Yannick Bahati as well, who Bahati's got a glass jaw, but perhaps it was back in 2015, perhaps then Bahati hadn't been knocked out and his chin kind of hadn't been eroded. But yeah, I mean, looking at his record, it doesn't seem like he's this huge, massive concussive puncher, but we did see from his debut he obviously does have power and he is very quick when he does explode. And to be fair, it was the first time Townsend's been knocked out, and Townsend's had like 27, 28 fights, not against the best opposition, but still, if you've had that many fights and never been KO'd, there must be something about you that suggests you've got a good chin or you're good defensively. So he did get wiped out by Dalcha there. So Ankalev's going to have to be careful as long as this fight lasts, but Dalcha should slow down as the fight goes on, and I see Ankalaev kind of pulling away here and probably winning a decision. The line's shot out to minus 300 now, which probably a bit too wide. He was sitting, I think he had it at a really good price actually, minus 175, kind of minus 200 territory. I think that's a decent price, but I think I'm not as sold on Ankalaev as a lot of people. I see a lot of people going 5 units, like max bets on him on Twitter and that. I saw a lot of that early on. Probably people won't be max betting him at minus 300, but he'll probably be getting used in a lot of doubles. I'm not completely sold on him, and it's not just because of the bad experience I had with the Paul Craig fight. Just, he just seems he can be a little bit low volume, and like I said, Abreu did crack him once or twice, but he has steadily improved each fight from the Craig fight. He's definitely looked better in the last two than he did against Paul Craig. So, and he's only 27, so he's probably still he should still be improving. So yeah, I'm going to go Ankalaev decision there. But I think the line's perhaps got a little bit too wide to play now at minus 300. Right, we're on to the main card, guys. I've got to be honest, I haven't actually got around to looking at Shamil Gamzatov's yet, taking on Klidson Abreu. I know money's coming on Abreu because he was at like I think like plus 250. He's now down to plus 175. So money has been coming in on Abreu. What I will do is, I'm not going to make a prediction on this fight yet. Let me do the tape and I will update my prediction on the comments or the description panel below this video with my prediction once I've managed to do tape. But just from I do know Klidson because I taped him when he fought Ankalaev. He's a very opportunistic submission guy, very dangerous with his submissions. And looking at who Shamil has fought, the line's, even though a lot of money has come in, I still think that line seems wide. But that is a pre-tape fault. I've never seen Shamil fight, so I could be completely off there. But he's probably getting a lot of hype because he's Russian and he's 13-0, so he's unbeaten. But looking at his record, I mean, he's fought no one. He's got a split decision win over Rodney Wallace. I did try looking for that fight earlier. I couldn't find it. It was 3 years ago, but still, Rodney Wallace is a true journeyman. And then he's got decision wins in PFL against Eddie Gordon and Rex Harris. So I'm going to have a look at them and see how he looks. But to me, that definitely looks like a dog or pass kind of fight at the current lines. But as I said, I've not watched Shamil, so I will update the YouTube comments after, because Abreu is very dangerous and very opportunistic with his submissions. Next we've got Ramazan Emeev taking on Anthony Rocco Martin. I've done a fair bit of tape on this fight. I do like Emeev. He's been out for over a year. I'm not sure why. But the problem I find with Emeev is he just tends to do enough to win fights. I mean, he did rock Sam Alvey in round 1, but that was when he was fighting at middleweight. Emeev and Alvey. Emeev's moved down since, and Alvey's moved up. But I remember that was the fight where Alvey took it on really short notice. He had a massive amount of weight to cut, and he never looks great, Alvey, does he? But he looked even worse than normal in that fight. He just looked like he was really weight drained, just really even more lethargic than he normally looks. So I don't know whether that played a part in Emeev kind of rocking him, but Alvey survived anyway, and then kind of rounds 2 and 3 were quite pedestrian. Emeev would throw the right hand, clinch up, he'd go for the takedown. Alvey's always had solid takedown defence. He got him down a few times, but Alvey would pretty much pop straight back to his feet. Emeev moved down to welterweight then, took on Alberto Mina, a comfortable 3-round win there. Pretty much, again, same strategy, utilise the striking and mix in the strikes to close the distance and hit takedowns. It showed he's happy grappling with solid grapplers, because Mina's a decent grappler, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He had no apprehension about mixing in the grappling there with Mina. Comfortable decision win. And then his last fight against Stefan Sekulic, he had him hurt in round 1, hurt him with a right hand, and then followed it up with I think it was a knee that landed as Sekulic ducked down to try and hit a takedown. But Sukudic survived, and then the next 2 rounds, kind of again, a bit of a pedestrian affair. Ramazan likes to move on the front foot. He's always moving forward. Doesn't really utilise kicks too much. He's pretty hands heavy. He pour out a jab, and he's got good timing with his right hand. But as I say, it's just he's very well rounded, but there's not really much urgency to his game. So he's taken on Rocco Martin here, who moved up to welterweight a while ago, and he's actually looked fine at welterweight. Rocco Martin size-wise, he probably should have been there all along. He's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fights there now, and I mean he won his first 4, and he's coming off a close loss to Damian Maia. Clearly won round 3, but just lost the first 2 rounds due to getting out-grappled. And what is interesting regarding Tony Martin is, I mean, he was known as a grappler, but ever since the Johnny Case fight, he hasn't attempted 1 takedown. That's 6 fights. Now he has fought some grapplers and wrestlers in there, but even so, even against the likes of maybe, well, I guess he thought he could outstrike Nakamura. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense that he hasn't gone for any takedowns, but then there's definitely some fights where you thought maybe he would have. So based on his last 6 fights, I've got to assume he's just going to strike here. He's at American top team. He's been there a while now. He's not at the main American top team headquarters anymore. I think that might be to do with him splitting up with Kayla Harrison. He's at the Atlanta one now with the Lima brothers. Who else did I see training there? Will Brooks is there as well. So he's still at a solid camp. He was also at a Tiger Muay Thai for this camp. So I see Rocco Martin wanting to keep this on the feet for 3 rounds. Don't see him going for takedowns. Emeev, I think, will mix up the takedown attempts like he normally does in all of his fights. His takedowns aren't the best. He's pretty strong in the clinch, but he's not really got much top control. And you have to be careful as well when he dives, kind of drop down for the ankles and so forth, that he doesn't get his back taken by Rocco Martin here. But it's a hard fight to call. Rocco loves the calf kicks. They're going to be there for him against Emeev, who fights out of the orthodox stance. So Rocco's definitely going to work for them. I think Emeev will be the one on the front foot dictating the action. Rocco's quite comfortable in the pocket. Like, he doesn't really shell up or look away. He's quite good at seeing what shots are coming so he can counter. But like I said, Emeev's volume isn't great. I mean, Rocco Martin's volume isn't great either, so it does make it a fairly hard fight to call. But I just think Emeev being on the front foot in a close fight kind of will hold sway with the judges. I also think he'll be the one going for the takedown, so he's going to have spells of attempting takedowns and holding Rocco Martin against the fence. And I see the striking being relatively close, so I think Emeev might just do enough from the forward pressure and the control on the fence, and maybe nicking a takedown here or there. But I expect Martin to get up quickly, just to do enough to get the nod in a close stand-up fight, because Martin's striking is decent enough, and Emeev's striking is good, but as I said, it's just a bit of a volume issue I have with him. So I see this being a close fight. I definitely see it going to a decision, but I looked at that earlier and it was out at that's -245 now. That's a pass, unfortunately. But the money line -155 Emeev. I think I'd need the line to be closer to bet him. His decision line is probably going to be even money, so it's not even going to be that tempting to bet him by decision. I'd like plus money really. So I'm going to go Emeev's decision there, but I don't really think there's any value on Emeev's money line. The value's maybe with Martin. I'd like to know why Emeev's been out as well, but I just don't know. It's a hard fight to call. I'll go with Emeev by decision, but I don't think there's really any bet on the current lines there. Next, we stay in the men's welterweight division. Actually, we've got Zelim Imadaev taking on Danny Roberts. So Zelim was a bit of an unknown quantity coming into his UFC debut. There wasn't a great deal of tape. Just checking his record, but I'm pretty sure a lot of his fights were over pretty quick as well. Yeah, it looks like they were all round 1 finishes pretty much. He did have a round 3 win. I can't remember if that fight was available. I think it was actually. Memory says it was, because I did look into him against Max Griffin. I just couldn't pull the trigger in the end because I think there was just a lack of tape and a lot of the round one finishes and so forth. And once you get to the UFC, that normally dissipates, them quick finishes, and you're normally fighting for 15 minutes and you're fighting up a level and so forth. But he definitely looked like a decent prospect. Matt's Griffin fight, he was very raw. You could see that he hasn't had much cage time. He was going for a lot of spinning stuff. Kind of silly really when Max Griffin clearly had a wrestling heavy approach. You go for a spin, you give your back, it allows someone to shoot. He got taken down a fair bit, but he always worked his way back to his feet fairly quickly, and Griffin's actually a decent wrestler. Griffin didn't want anything really to do with Zelim on the feet. Zelim defensively isn't the best, but he's very aggressive. The guy comes forward. Griffin can crack, and he was just poking his tongue out at Griffin whenever Griffin cracked him. So at the moment, he seems to have a solid chin. He's very aggressive. As I said, he needs to drop the spinning stuff. But he's one of them fighters. He's a bit of a nightmare. Just constant pressure. He's tough. He hits hard himself. He'll throw volume. Just one of them. He can be a stylistic nightmare for a lot of fighters if he cuts down on the stupid spinning stuff and just concentrates on the more effective stuff, and stops giving his back up as he spins and allowing easy takedown attempts and so forth. I know he's been working at Mark Henry's camp for this fight. Saw that on his Instagram, so you've got to think that that's only going to help him. He's only young, he's 24, he's young, and there's lots of room for improvement, lot of time to bring about more finesse, and he's going to be fighting at home here as well. So yeah, he just needs to fight a little bit smarter, and I think this guy could be a problem in the division, especially, as I said, with that style, especially if he has got that solid chin that he looked like against Griffin with that pressure and that volume heavy style. He's taking on Danny Roberts here, who he trains out of Henry Hooft's gym, 32 years of age now. He's coming off back-to-back losses. Bizarre fight with Henrique de Silva. He was 2 rounds down, so he did need a finish. So he was looking like he was going to lose the fight anyway. But it was bad. It was bad fight IQ by Danny in that fight. He'd kind of sting Claudio on the feet, and he'd get overzealous, kind of coming in and end up getting taken down. Should have been more patient. But the submission that he was at, I don't know what happened with the submission. I think from memory, he like screamed out. This is what came out after the fight. He like screamed out, but it wasn't a verbal submission as such. So the ref stopped it because of the scream. But he was actually out of the armbar. If you watch the tape, he was safe. So it went down as a submission loss, but like I said, he was 2 rounds down. I think that was pretty clear. So he did need to finish anyway, and then he's coming off the loss to Michel Pereira, which really swelled the Pereira hype bubble. Wasn't a good look for Danny in that fight. Just got absolutely wiped out in like a minute and a half. Before he's really fortunate he's not coming off 3 straight losses here, because the Zawada fight, as I mentioned earlier, he should have lost that fight, but Zawada just threw the fight away with bizarre fight IQ. He had Danny panic wrestling that fight. He didn't like the pressure Zawada was putting on him, and then he got the win over Oliver Enkamp, put him away quickly in the first round. But fight before that, he got wiped out by Nordin Taleb. And then, of course, we've got the infamous Mike Perry fight where, Mark Goddard was a bit late, very late with that stoppage. And I don't think Danny's really looked the same fighter since. He did get dropped by Dominic Steele as well in the first round. It wasn't a heavy knockdown or anything, but yeah, I think Mike Perry took his soul, I've got to be honest. And then, he's got bad knockout losses since. Nordin Taleb, Michel Pereira. So he's very, very fortunate that Zawada fought like a complete imbecile and threw that fight away. I'm just not high on Danny Roberts. He's got a guy here that's going to pressure him. He's going to have to hope that he folds Zelim, I think, early with a right hand or something. He does have some power, Danny. We saw him take out Oliver Enkamp. We saw him take out Bobby Nash, but Bobby Nash is kind of known for being a bit chinny. Just double checking that, but I'm sure he is. Yeah, Keenan Song KO'd him, and Lee KO'd him. Yeah, all these, his 3 losses in the UFC all by KO. I don't know if he's got the power to stop Zelim, and if he hasn't, I think it's going to be a long night for him. I'm kind of on the bandwagon as well of fading that Blackzilians camp. I mean, the Gilbert Burns they've got, but they're just, I think they spar too hard. Their fighters kind of, it's just, I don't like Henry Hooft in the corner either. I think, he just kind of seems to shout at his fighters. And yeah, I fear for Danny here. I've got to be honest with you. He's a fellow UK guy. I'd like to see him win. He's going into the Lions Den here in Moscow. I mean, look, Zelim is raw still. I mean, he's got that going for him. Roberts, he's probably going to make mistakes, and he's going to have opportunities to land on Zelim, but if he doesn't put him away early, I think he's in trouble here. Danny kind of has wilted a little bit at a high pace, and I mean, I know Zelim lost officially on his record. He lost to Griffin, but he had that point deducted in round 1 for the fence grab. I think the fight should have been a draw. I thought he took rounds 2 and 3. So he's probably unlucky not to have a draw there. I haven't looked at the scorecards, but without the point deduction, then I don't know how the scores would have gone down, but it was a very close fight. He lost round 1 Zelim, but then he seemed to turn the tide around 2 and 3. I just think the UFC have set Danny Roberts up for a fall here, or at least that's what they think is going to happen. It just seems like a nightmare fight for him stylistically. I noticed the money has been coming in on Zelim. He's minus 225 now. Look, it's probably getting a bit pricey for someone that is raw. He didn't fight very smart in his last fight. A lot of spinning and stuff, but as I said, I expect that to dissipate. I think he's still going to do it, but I'm sure surely it's going to be less. If he's watched back that fight, and he's at Mark Henry's as well now, so yeah. But Danny Roberts' experience, he's been in UFC a long time, so maybe it's getting a bit wide, that particular line. Fight inside the distance. It's been bet up. I looked earlier and it was minus 130. It's minus 170 now. But I'm going to go with Zelim here to win by knockout. I do worry for Danny Roberts in this fight, but like I said, for someone that's shown how raw he is, but he went a hard 3 rounds with Griffin and his cardio looked okay in UFC debut. I think there's some upside to Zelim as long as he does learn to fight more technically. I think it could be a problem. So I'll go with Zelim here to win by knockout. Co-main event, we've got Volkov taking on Greg Hardy. So Hardy's taking this on very short notice after the inhaler episode. Look, Volkov is out at minus 270. I'm not betting a heavyweight at minus 270 unless I think it's a squash match. Greg Hardy is very new to MMA. He's had 6 fights. Volkov's had more like 40. But this is MMA and it's heavyweight and it just takes one punch. I remember betting against Volkov in his debut against Timothy Johnson, and I remember being so furious that I lost that fight. He should have got that decision, Timothy Johnson. Volkov got the split. And then, he had a pedestrian win over Roy Nelson. He put away Struve in the 3rd round. Solid win over Fabricio Verdum. And then he lost the fight. He was 11 seconds away from winning against Eric Lewis. That's exactly what I mean about heavyweight. Anything can happen. He's clearly the classier operator here. Greg Hardy, I don't think he punches as hard as we all thought he did. He kind of burst onto the scene on the Contender Series with them dirty knockouts. But then since then, the Smolkov win was ground and pound. The One Adams win was, to be fair, he does hit hard because they were like hammer fists from him sprawling on One Adams and he took him out. So he's clearly got power, but I just don't know how efficient it is in terms of him standing up with his striking. Because, Alan Crowder was eating his shots okay, and we've seen Crowder slept before. And then Ben Sazoli took his shots no problem as well. So I don't think he cracks as hard as we originally thought he did. which could be a problem here because I can't see him winning the decision against Volkov. Volkov's been knocked out a couple of times. Minakov knocked him out like 6 odd years ago, and obviously he's coming off the Derek Lewis knockout loss. So, you know, who knows how he comes back from that KO loss. But look, I've got to go with Volkov here, probably to win by decision. I think he might play this fairly safe because he'd be worried about Greg Hardy. I mean, even if Greg Hardy doesn't hit as hard as we thought, he's still going to crack. He's still a 265-pound man. But yeah, I can't play minus 270. Fight goes to decision is plus 245. That is interesting. Very interesting. I think that is way too wide. Now there's an argument here that Volkov is a huge step up for Greg Hardy, which he is, and he might just completely outclass him on the feet to the point that he just stops him just from sheer accumulation of damage. So there's definitely that possibility. So yeah, there's definitely the danger here that he could just be completely outclassed, as it is a big step up. But yeah, I think there's a bit of value there, you know. I don't think Hardy hits as hard as we thought, and Volkov's coming off a KO win. He might want to fight this. He might want to fight long here. Let me just have a look at the reach advantages, if there is one. So Volkov stands, he's a couple of inches taller. They've got the same reach, 80 inches. Yeah, I don't think that's the worst. I mean, if that line holds, I'll definitely be interested in possibly putting something on that. I don't think there's any need to get cute and go for like Volkov decision. You know, I don't see Hardy winning a decision, but MMA is a strange sport. I've been burnt trying to be too cute before, but I think at like basically plus 250, fight to go to a decision isn't the worst bet in the world. You know, the Timothy Johnson fight went to a decision. Roy Nelson fight did. I know Roy is insanely durable. The Stefan Struve fight went late into round 3. The Fabricio Werdum fight went into round 4. And the Derek Lewis fight was, 11 seconds away from going the distance. So, I know Hardy's raw, but we've not really seen how he reacts to being hit either. So there is that concern. But, I'm not saying kind of go max bet here, but I think that line's interesting. So it'd be interesting to see where that opens elsewhere. And if that gets bet down, what did it open at? It's kind of held so far. So yeah, but interesting fight, that one. We move to the main event now, which is only 3 rounds, which is a bummer, basically, especially if you was interested in betting Calvin, because there's definitely question marks over Zabit's cardio. We've seen him slow down a few times now. Jeremy Stevens, there was a huge slowdown. The Cole Bokniak fight, there was a big slowdown as well. He was alright against Shayman Morales, but those 2 fights that I just mentioned, there was a definite slowdown. I don't like betting on someone needing the other guy to gas, but I mean, for live betting anyway, it would have made things very interesting. Now a 3-round fight, winning round 3 for Calvin isn't going to be enough. He's going to need to take the first or second round. I just think Zabit's style is just a bit too versatile for Calvin Zabit. He's got good hands, he's got good kicks, he can mix in takedowns, he's got good grappling. Calvin, we've seen him in the past, he struggled with leg kicks. We saw that quite evidently in the, I think it was the Canero fight, wasn't it, where he struggled with the leg kicks. I just don't. He's got good boxing. He is a good boxer. He looked very good these last couple of fights, couple of good KO wins. He even took Shane Burgess a few fights ago in a fight where it looked like all the momentum was with Shane. He lost round 1, Shane, but he came back. He won round 2. Looked like the fight was going his way, and then bang, Calvin took him out in round 3. So he's a good fighter, Calvin, but I definitely wish this was over 5 rounds. I definitely think that would make him more live here. I just don't think he's going to get a decision. I'd be very surprised if he can stop Zabit, and I just don't see him getting a decision win here. I think Zabit's going to take the first 2, and it'd be interesting to see how Zabit is in round 3, because if he slows again, it's clearly a huge issue. Fight goes to... Oh wow, fight goes to a decision. It's -140. I was not expecting that. Okay, so yeah, there's no value on the money lines here. Zabit, I mean, look, Calvin at +250. I can't fault anyone having a go at that, but I just don't see him winning the first couple of rounds here. But honestly, I was just looking at this. I was expecting this to be, I don't know, -220. It is definitely 3 rounds, this fight. Maybe the books think it's 5 rounds. Has Calvin been stopped before? He's got 1 submission loss back in, like 2008. Yeah, I'm surprised. I mean, Zabit has shown that he can pull out some good submissions. He, the nice knee bar on Brandon Davis. I thought it was a banana split, was it? Which is, I know it is technically it's kind of a knee bar, but yeah. And then he also managed to put away Mike Santiago, and he got the late submission on Shamil Morales. I guess that's where the books are going here. He's subbed 3 of his opponents, and 2 have gone the distance. And then I guess we haven't really seen Calvin's ground game or his takedown defence really tested. I guess that's where they're looking at, but I still think so. Maybe that line is over 3 rounds. I think they're looking at the submission wins he's got there, but that's still an interesting line to me. Fight goes to a decision. I know Calvin does have some sort of wrestling background. We just haven't really seen his wrestling tested. It's been a big unknown. But yeah, for me, I think that's where the value lies on this fight. Fight goes to a decision, -140. So I'm hoping that will hold when other books release it, because that's definitely an interesting one over 3 rounds for me. But I am going to take Zabit to win a decision here. So that's the full card capped, guys. As you can tell, I don't think it's a great card for betting. As we worked through the fights, there's kind of a lot of fighters that are, for me anyway, I find them hard to trust, or we don't know quite enough about them, or there's some serious or fight IQ issues which lies into fighters being hard to trust. There's a lot of unknowns with some of these fighters, which is often what you find when you've got these kind of European and Russian cards. They try and fill them up for the kind of home crowd, so they put a lot of unknowns in and so forth. But then you've got just people like Khabilov. I just don't know where he's at. Is he shot? Is he not? As you can look at welterweight, it's just a lot of unknowns here, a lot of hard people to trust, fight IQs, etc. So I don't think it's the best card in the world for betting. Managed to get in early with a couple of bets that were sent to members last week. There's 2 pre-bets with members. Probably won't be adding to them, I don't think. But we'll see what happens, see how some lines develop. But there will be live betting for the card. And as I detailed thoroughly at the start, £195 for 12 months, guys. And £100 per unit bettors are £12,700 in profit this year so far. So good luck everyone with your bets. Let's hope it's an entertaining card, and I hope you all make some money. Any comments or whatever, feel free to leave them. Any questions, feel free to drop them. I'll come back to you. Over and out.